There's a quote that I love by Tagore, many of them, but this one specially. Let your life lightly dance on the edges of time, like dew on the tip of a leaf. And I realized when I was particularly preparing for this talk, funnily enough, this short paper, that indigo's really kept me dancing. So when I heard Bernard talking about the dance, it takes you all across time, and it's kept me on my toes since the early 80s. And it was wonderful to hear Dominique Cardon speaking, and you'll hear Ruby Rasnovi later. There were a few of us in the 80s, you can work out how old we are, who have been plugging away for decades, and it's incredibly exciting to have this event and to see the way the interest is growing in the world. It's just a marvelous thing, because we were quite lone voices at the time, as Dominic's saying, and the research is amazing. So I've been kept on my toes in many ways by a molecule, this extraordinary molecule, which chemists, I'm going to show off here, I actually met a Nobel Prize-winning chemist when doing this amazing project in New York with Yo-Yo Ma, with children, and amazingly and wonderfully and magically in the indigo way, Linda LaBelle, who did the actual dyeing with the children, and we taught the teachers and created a dye vat in difficult conditions in New York, has come here and is going to be dyeing with and teaching teachers. So isn't that miraculous how it all happens? But this molecule, the Nobel Prize-winning chemist, said he uses it as a perfect molecule. And another chemist the other day said it's so beautiful. This is what indigo is all about, this extraordinary chemistry, actually, this very stable molecule which produces an amazing color, totally color fast, behaves unlike any other natural dye. Everything about it is to do with its chemistry. And I'm not a chemist. I'm in awe of Dominique Cardon, who knows a lot more about chemistry. So this dye has taken me across the disciplines and across time. And I was just thinking about the talk, but Dominique has already shown one picture that I just need to say that I think what I do share with many people here, which is lovely, because I'm often at academic conferences where people talk about things, they haven't actually done them. And one of our main things here is not to call it a conference, it's an event. This is an Indigo event. It has the market, it has the exhibition, and above all, it has 2 days of workshops, which are oversubscribed. That is incredible. And other teaching going on. Ghazali's come teaching Nigerian indigo to Future Hope children, street children, a project here. All that sort of thing. That's what indigo is about. It isn't just an academic subject, it's a doing thing. And so I must say I was an indigo dyer, and this is where it all started for me, so I always use that slide. And I want to show how wrong I am from both directions. I cleverly put a subtitle into a later edition of my book, Indigo, Egyptian Mummies to Blue Jeans. And I'm wrong. And Dominique's already shown you, because last year the news comes in. I'm wrong by 1,200 years. Well, not wrong, but with the latest amazing technology. That's the other thing that's happened. I've seen since the first early dye meetings, and again, I'm not a chemist, but the analytical techniques, you can find things you never did before. I mean, the accelerated radiocarbon dating, the carbon dating of fibers, and also, I won't even, when I first went to a conference, they were using TLC. I thought it meant tender loving care. It turned out to be thin layer chromatography. But nobody does that now. They do HPLC, and they go beyond that. And I mean, it's just with the digital age and computers, you can practically tell what fields. The analysis is amazing. Needless to say, indigo is the one that's causing the most challenges. With so many other dyes, you can really pinpoint where the dyes came from. Indigo is extraordinarily difficult to tell what the source was still. Everybody's working. They will probably next year. And that's what Dominique was saying. I mean, the research is so incredibly important for the future. So there on the bottom, 1,000, let's say 1,200 years earlier from Peru. And then when I was Googling, just checking on my dates, Mohenjo-Daro 2 days ago for this talk, what do I discover? That a Bollywood movie came out last year called Mohenjo-Daro, with a great famous film star whose name I hadn't heard because I'm not a Bollywood fan. Wait a minute. Hrithik Roshan, famous apparently. And they kept under wraps until the film came out what this man did at Mohenjo-Daro, the hero of the film, what he was. Guess what he was? Announced suddenly with a great Bollywood fanfare, an indigo farmer. And they chose a Bollywood film star. Now, where in the air has that come from? That the great hero was an indigo farmer thousands of years ago. It gave us all a surprise. That's my latest picture. I was adding these in. So I can never keep it. I never do the same talk. There's always something new to say. The earliest known use of blue jeans. No, blue jeans, as we said, yes, it's the great story today. It's the oldest running fashion story, not just now, but of all time. And again, it's to do with the chemistry and the colour of indigo. We're not going to go into the chemistry, because I haven't got the time. I'm going to whiz through to the end of my talk. But so there we are, denim, this painting of denim in the 16th century already. And that was actually painted with indigo. And the yarn is indigo. It's a double twill. So it's a denim yarn, a denim depiction. And this picture just shows, now we're going to skip right into colonial times for a minute, because we're going to talk about Gandhi and so on. We're going to go to what I really want to tell you at the end, which we're nearly at. We all know about the reason that Bengal had the history of indigo as it did, and why this is happening and why we're having a revival, because it was the great centre for production in colonial times after it could not be grown in the West Indies. And here we are, symbol of what happened in Kolkata from both ends. So that is very much a book-ended thing, isn't it? Kolkata and Britain, very much like this. East India Company headquarters in London, and all the buildings in Kolkata we're walking past every day. But I want to always remember, because sometimes we get very hooked into this political story and this stain of indigo we've heard that wonderfully Gandhi removed, and we're removing all the time. Because it's this huge story. People have loved indigo for 6,000 years. And meanwhile, while we've got this colonial story going on, everybody's carrying on wearing indigo. So this, when the East India companies are here, yes, they're exploiting the workers, but indigo is being worn. Look at these marvellous company school paintings, worn by Maharaja, worn by warriors. Look at I really put this on because I love the hats. I've always loved hats. What marvellous costumes, what wonderful inspiration of what was going on all over India at the time the exploitation was happening here. So we've got the commodity, but we've got the use going on everywhere. And sometimes things get very muddled up in the head, and you get focused on just one aspect. And this whole wide picture going on. And then you get into a small aspect. I have to put this on because Amrita had mentioned Thomas Machel. This is the young man who brought me back in 2000, and therefore I met Amrita, and therefore maybe, and a million other friends, and therefore maybe, we've cooked up this idea of one day having something on indigo. And it's taken 17 years, which really in time is nothing. Or we think it might have taken 150 years. We're not quite sure when it started. Or maybe this whole conference took 6,000 years. Who knows? And it was this picture that led me, one illustration in a library, in a volume, that happened to be on display and happened to have the word indigo in the title. And that's the only reason I knew that these journals existed. And that brought me to Kolkata. And this is a typical ship that was coming into Kolkata. I'm aware of time, so we're going to whiz through the history bit. That was the picture when the East India companies were pouring into Kolkata. And there is Thomas Machel's own map with Fort William. And when I came in 2000, that was the map I brought with me. And I walked around Kolkata with that one to see what I could find. A lot, actually. Street names had changed. That was a challenge. And then I went and followed his route up. This is his hand-drawn map, and this is probably taken from a rather famous printed map, which you will see because you have an absolute treat in store with the exhibition. And these are the boats going up the river. And this is what you're going to see. One of the many things when it's compulsory to go to the exhibition. I think one half's open, the other might be slightly delayed because the historical section is sensational. And this is an Indigo Factory. And this is Thomas's version of it. And again, even when he was here growing indigo, these were his servants. They were wearing indigo, and he was recording their clothing. So one has to remember that people were carrying on wearing it. There's the product, and there's the clothing, and the textile use. So it's a complicated story. And I just put this up because he was aware, unlike most people, of how exploitative. You haven't got time to read it. But at the bottom, he says that nobody in the West understands what toil is created in order to produce this beautiful blue color. And these are the old plantations. And this is the headquarters of the biggest and oldest tea auction house in India. It's J. Thomas, it's R. Thomas then. It's now a modern building. That was the original building. We will all drink their tea because they are the biggest auctioneers in the world. Their tea goes all over the world. And guess what they call their house, their building? Neel Hut House. It was built for the indigo market. And today, all their headquarters are still Neel Hut. And the amazing thing is that they have incredible records. Shelves and shelves. Every single red book in there, that lovely cup of tea I was drinking, contains a record of the entire history of the period. Quite amazing, and they've been incredibly generous in their in letting us look at them. But the remarkable thing is what's going to happen. There really is something incredibly unique happening tomorrow here in this building, which is the first auction of indigo for well over 100 years, auctioneered by the same auctioneers. I mean, the same auction house, probably not the same, we never know. And it will be sensational. At the end of the 2 days, there will be an auction upstairs, open to the public, of indigo again, run by J. Thomas. How incredible is that? Really extraordinary, that kind of coming together. When we first came in 2000, we were trying to look at these archives. We couldn't get into them. And now the generosity and the sharing of it. And in fact, I had a call last night. They're covering it in the UK newspaper, in the Saturday paper, the weekend section on Saturday, in UK. Isn't that amazing? I think somebody heard. Oh yes, they saw something on Instagram. How amazing is that? I think it was a post I did of this. And this journalist now wants to cover it in a major newspaper in Britain on Saturday after the auction here. So see how important we all are. You must go and visit this. I really am coming to the end. You must go and visit this museum, everybody. And I don't know what the opening times are, but you'll hear. Because it has a model of an indigo factory. And you must go to the exhibition because you will see something absolutely extraordinary when you go to the exhibition. And all credit to this extraordinary thing you're going to see goes to Sangeeta Datoria. It's quite an amazing thing that she's done. You wait. And this is a modeling queue of an indigo factory. And there's two things I want to say now, sort of more modern. Every time I speak to people about indigo and the packaging and the marketing, I say, with my experience, how wonderful it is to dye with the indigo paste, the wonderful clay that comes out before it turns into the indigo lump, which I haven't brought with me. Because when you've got the dried indigo, which was great for long-distance trade in the old days, because for many reasons it's so durable and so on, you then have to crush it again and get it back into the paste form to dye. And it's sheer joy to dye with the paste. That's pestle and mortar. That is the lump of indigo as it was exported. Now, Grace is not here, Girola de Cecil, in El Salvador. She always vacuum packs the paste. The dyers completely love it, and I've had a lot of correspondence with her the last few weeks, how long it lasts. It certainly lasts several years, and she doesn't even have it in the pitch dark. And I just think, I've been saying this for so long, and I'm going to say it again to all the producers, I'm sure that if it could be packaged in some way, the modern packaging, it could be eco-plastic or eco-canned or whatever, it would be brilliant for, so many people are put off by having to crush back down the powder, when sometimes you get little bits and so on. The paste is so beautifully smooth and so beautiful to dye with. So I'm throwing that out now. Again, I think I've said it about 100 times, but you have to carry on. And another thing you're going to see is exceptional, because when we launched the last sutra with the Marg edition on natural dyes, we had exhibited some of the prints which you couldn't actually handle. And you're going to see something amazing in the show which you can actually handle. So I'm just going to put these two pictures on and then my last picture. We just heard about the Gandhi story, and I was very moved. Also in the show, the Ray's family, very kind. I only saw this 2 days ago. The Story of the Blue Mutiny. I have the same copy in my study, and it's been annotated by the great filmmaker Satyajit Ray, and his son has very kindly given us facsimile. He himself had never seen before the pages, never looked inside. And the annotations, I'm glad to say, talk about how awful most of the farmers were, and some were nice. And the boss of the man I love so much, Thomas Machell, he was the white sheep among black. They weren't all awful, but most of them were, as Thomas Machell says. There is I knew there weren't slides, so I put a picture on of Gandhi. But did you know, we all know that Gandhi was a very great promoter of khadi. How many people know that Gandhi wrote a book on natural dyes? This is Gandhi's incredibly rare book on natural dyes, and he actually promoted natural dyes, because naturally it went with you, and he loved simplicity, he loved khadi, and he actually wrote a book on natural dyes. Wouldn't I kill to get my hands on a copy? I think there are about 3 copies. And there is indigo dyed in Gandhi's book on natural dyes. So in fact, I feel, as we heard from the previous talk, I think Gandhi loved indigo. He didn't like the way it was produced, but he absolutely loved indigo. I'm sure of that. I think maybe his spirit's here. I wish he could come back and rule a few countries while he's about it. I wish we could clone him and bring him back. I can think of a few places. Now, 2 last things. So you're going to hear from Jesus later, who has been producing denim, so it can be done. Nobody can say it can't be done. Organic cotton, beautiful fermentation vats, and natural indigo, the perfect jeans. How many people knew, because I didn't till 3 weeks ago, the first denim hijabs have just been designed in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely brand new. I've never had a denim hijab before. So my publisher, who's in Saudi at the moment, said, guess what I've just seen in a magazine, and sent me this picture. Now, so we're just going to go right to the edge of time here. Has anybody heard of catalytic clothing? No? I can't say that I really had either until long ago, I have to say. I met, by chance or not, Professor Helen Story. You can look this up, there's quite a lot on the web, and it's in development at the moment. She's working, she's an amazing woman from London College of Fashion. She's working with a professor at Sheffield University. The technology is used for other things, all sorts of things already. It's a nanotechnology. You put a catalyst in your wash. It's completely neutral. It doesn't damage the atmosphere when you're washing your clothes. When you wear your clothes, they have the catalyst within them which captures the carbon from the atmosphere. You need a critical mass of people on the pavement at one moment. If there's enough people on that square meter of pavement, I've got the figures somewhere, and they walk together, each one is capturing the carbon. You're actually cleaning the air as you walk. It actually happens. There's certain things it takes out every odor as well. The textile industry don't like that. And I met her the other day. We were talking about it. She said, Jenny, I've got a question for you. This is supposed to work on every kind of fiber. But for some reason, it works best with jeans. This is a technology to do with oxygen. Can you explain that? Why do you think it's jeans? And I said, of course, I'm not a chemist or a physicist, but I said, that's really interesting, you should ask me that, because the whole magic of indigo is the way it reacts with oxygen. As you'll see doing the dye vats, and you'll see in the demonstration, everything to do with indigo is to do with this exchange of oxygen, capturing it or losing it. And so, amazingly, this very, very cutting-edge technology for our very crowded pavements works best if you get a mass of people wearing jeans, and that's the one thing everybody does wear. If you have enough people wearing jeans on a piece of pavement, it works particularly well to actually clean the atmosphere. It's actually carbon capture through your clothing. I think it's incredibly exciting, and they want to do research, so anybody got millions of pounds out there, into why it was best with jeans, and to try and get it in. So you could wash every pair of jeans in every wash. You could wash them with this titanium particles, nanoparticles, and then when you go walking around the pavement, make yourself really close to lots of other people wearing jeans, have a group hug, and it will capture the carbon and clean up the atmosphere. We could do with it to Delhi at the moment. Give everybody jeans. And Delhi would clean up. So that's finally, that's the other edge of the time that's happened. And it's a serious bit of research, actually. I mean, it's quite extraordinary, the things that are happening all the time with this new research. So here we are now, about to have coffee. There's the wonderful Amrita Mukherjee with her blue hand from last time, when she didn't have a glove on. And White's all here. Ruby Ghaznavi in the middle of that picture, who started growing indigo again in Bangladesh. The Japanese dye gods to get the whole thing going, and the proper serious papers in a minute. And I rather like this one. In the V&A Museum, Fabric of India last year, they had a fantastic exhibition. I particularly like this Indigo Krishna. Krishna is indigo anyway. I like this one because he's looking at us straight for the present. He's looking back and he's looking forward. So maybe he can be our presiding past and future and the present today over the rest of the ceremony. So I hope it's all going to be amazing. We've got some incredible speakers, incredible workshops, incredible exhibition. Everything's marvelous. It always is with Indigo. And thank you all for coming. How amazing is that?